It's happening again. The New York Knicks are at the center of Zion Williamson trade rumors once again as the trade deadline approaches, and nobody's favorite media is bringing up the idea of Zion Williamson getting traded to the New York Knicks, and we're going to break this down as this is absolutely insane, especially because why would the Knicks want Zion Williamson or want to trade for him right now? What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here. And guys, if you guys are enjoying the content, make sure to subscribe. If you're part of that 68% who's not subscribed to Knicks Digest yet and you want daily New York Knicks updates, rumors, injury updates, just a bunch of fun stuff, make sure to subscribe to the channel. But let's jump right into this because, this is absolutely insane. There's been a lot of talk, as you can already see right here, from some NBA media discussing why the New York Knicks should trade for Zion Williamson and why the Knicks could be a potential landing spot for Zion Williamson. And right now, while we're a minute into the video, I might as well just say now, I am not advocating for this. Do not comment down below, why do we want Zion? Why would you say that you want Zion? I don't want Zion at all. Not one bit. I don't want the Knicks to trade for Zion Williamson. So don't start commenting that I do. But jumping into this, as mentioned by Stephen A. Smith, Zion Williamson does not want to be in New Orleans. He doesn't want to be there. He wants to be in a major market like LA, New York, or whatever because he wants the marketability. Now, look, Stephen A. Smith is spot on about that. There's no way around that. Stephen A. is just 100% correct. Zion Williamson clearly never wanted to be in New Orleans. He wanted to get drafted by the New York Knicks. He wanted the Knicks to get the first overall pick. The Knicks didn't get the first overall pick. The Pelicans got it. Zion got quickly whisked out of the room. And then since then, he's not been happy being a New Orleans Pelican. There was that time where he played the Knicks at MSG when RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish were on the team, and he talked about how much he loved MSG and how it was his favorite place to play, and then kind of trailed off and said, but New Orleans is first, obviously. It was such a fake moment. We knew Zion wanted to get traded off the Pelicans from the moment he got there, and it felt like the Knicks were the perfect landing spot for Zion when the Knicks had RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish, and Leon Rose was interested in bringing Zion Williamson, a CAA client, to the New York Knicks. However, that was in 2022. It's 2025 now. It's been 3 years. Zion Williamson's played 4 games since then. Why? Why is this still coming up? The Knicks didn't get him in 2019. Let's move on. It's been 6 years. Zion's played 6 games in those 6 years. Let's not throw a New York Knicks team that has true championship aspirations just into the gutter because we're trading multiple contracts that are important. Because, mind you, Zion's on a massive deal, and the only big contracts the Knicks have are Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Karl Anthony Towns. Let's trade one of them for Zion Williamson. Let's do that. That's smart. That's the right idea. It's absolutely absurd, and everybody's least favorite lunatic, Paul Pierce, actually spoke on this and said, if I'm the Knicks, I'm trying to get Zion right now. You got a lot of cats expendable. They could get rid of Josh Hart, and what's his name? The shooter's name? Really, Paul Pierce? The Knicks have a lot of expendable contracts, like Josh Hart's contract. That's expendable. The glue guy of the New York Knicks, that's expendable. Who else is expendable? Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns. The rest of the contracts are Mitchell Robinson's $12 million. It was $16 million a few years ago. Paul Pierce. I say this with respect because you're an NBA player and you've achieved more than I ever will. And you got stabbed 11 times and then played every game in the season. Stop talking about basketball. You are not good at that. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't care if you played in the NBA. Guess what? You have no clue what you're talking about. Don't talk about the New York Knicks ever again after that. Please don't. I don't see the point in you ever talking about the Knicks because that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, that's the stupidest thing someone said about the Knicks in a very long time. And Paul Pierce, no. Why? Guys, Paul Pierce is just such a dunce. Like, we get it. You pooped yourself on the court. Congrats, bro. Like, no one wants to hear you ever open your mouth, Paul Pierce, because every time you've opened your mouth since retiring, it's just been dumb thing after embarrassing story after dumb thing. Like, this guy is the worst NBA brain of all time. I don't even understand it. I hate being disrespectful towards NBA players. Paul Pierce is just why does anyone give this man a platform? It's absurd. just because he played in the NBA doesn't mean he knows the first thing of what he's talking about, and we've seen it evidently here. Yes, a team should trade for Zion Williamson. He's right about that. But anyone who watches basketball knows the Pelicans and Zion Williamson are not a match made in heaven. I mean, Zion, frankly, says that half the time. Zion Williamson said, man, I don't have a direct list of my favorite team or arenas to play in, but New York, I think Brooklyn there's a low-key one that I don't think people appreciate enough. Boston, who else? Chicago, I like Atlanta. I think they have a really good arena, and especially the black culture down there it's big down there. It's a lot of dope arenas out there. That kind of each of them, they have their own thing about them. And then he trailed off and was like, I like New Orleans better than all of them, though, because Zion has to finish his sentences with that so he could say that he wants to get traded and then kind of just give that answer for no reason because everybody sees right through it. And it's fine. I understand Zion didn't want to go to the Pelicans, and Zion doesn't have to want to be a New Orleans Pelican. Nobody's telling him that he can't request a trade. He absolutely should request a trade. The Pelicans have not been a good franchise since Zion's got there, and Zion has had a lot of injury troubles, and starting fresh would be great. Teams like the Hornets and the Hawks, which he mentioned, they should look to trade for him. They really should. I think it'd be a great idea. The Knicks might be the last team in the NBA. The Knicks, the Celtics, they might be the last two teams in the NBA that should consider trading for Zion Williamson. Like, why would the Knicks do that? Who would they trade? Oh, they trade Josh Hart and the shooter. What's his name? Wow, Paul Pierce, you're truly just one basketball genius, aren't you? What's his name? The shooter. Well, I think he means Deuce McBride. That's what would make sense, is that he meant Deuce McBride. Deuce McBride is a good shooter, 38% from three, 9.2 points per game, good 3-and-D guy. 2.5 rebounds, 3 assists, 42% from the field. He's having a good year. And Josh Hart, who he also wants the Knicks to trade, why would they trade him? The heart and soul of the team? They trade him for Zion Williamson, a guy who does not fit on the New York Knicks. Josh Hart puts up 14 points, 10 rebounds per game, 5.5 assists. The man has been straight up phenomenal this year. A steal and a half. The man should honestly get a lot of all-star consideration. I think coaches will give him a lot of all-star consideration because of all the things that Josh Hart does, right? The way that he affects winning. And trading him for Zion Williamson makes no sense because Josh Hart is an Iron Man. Meanwhile, Zion Williamson is made of glass. Zion this season is putting up 22 points per game, 8 rebounds, and 5.5 assists. The raw numbers are solid, though the points per game is way down from what they were a few years ago. He's shooting 48% from the field, which is way down from what it was a few years ago. Shooting 20% from three, which is way down from what it was a few years ago. His defensive box plus minus is terrible. His value over replacement player is basically nothing, but that's only because he hasn't played a lot of games because he's dealing with an injury. Look, I'm rooting for Zion. I really am. I know he's made some dumb choices in his life, but he's not a bad person. He seems like a nice guy. I do want Zion Williamson's career to work out well for him. It doesn't mean I want the Knicks to trade Josh Hart and what's his name, the shooter, for him. Because, yes, maybe the shooter is Deuce McBride. But is Paul Pierce talking about you, Dante? Is he talking about Dante DiVincenzo, who's not on the Knicks? I mean, Paul Pierce is such a complete buffoon that I imagine he thinks Dante DiVincenzo's on the Knicks. I mean, he probably thinks that Patrick Ewing's on the Knicks at this rate. Honestly, he probably thinks Ozzie Schechtman is still the NBA's all-time leading scorer with 2 points per game at this rate on the New York Knicks. Paul Pierce should never be allowed to talk basketball. Or he can, but let's just turn his mic down. Like, let's just turn it down. Like, every time he's going to talk, just do this with the microphone. Turn it off. You know? That's what they should do. Paul, it's like they're talking around, everybody's mics are on, and Paul Pierce's like, yeah, well, I think that's what they should do. That's what they should do with Paul Pierce. Yes, I know I'm turning my mic off. I'm not even really saying real words. But look, Zion's PR has just been in the toilet over the last couple of years. I mean, especially recently, after having some of the best PR in basketball history when he was in college and in high school, it's really gone into the gutter. I mean, Stephen A. Smith is saying Zion Williamson has spent a lot of time on the court. It just happens to be in the mall. It's the food court. This is Shannon Sharp, sorry. He needs a change of scenery. Stop going and eating everything you see, bro. That's embarrassing. I don't think Zion has an eating disorder. I think he eats a lot of food, but also look at Zion Williamson. Does this look like a fat person to you guys? No. He lost a ton of weight. He was getting heavier because he was having foot injuries. He couldn't work out. He couldn't do cardio at the same level because he was injured. He looks great right here. He doesn't look fat, but that's the narrative. Zion Williamson's fat. Stephen A. Smith. saying when the Pelicans suspended Zion for 1 game for being late, he's like, you better not tell me it's about food. It was not about food. Knock it off with disrespecting Zion Williamson. Knock it off with disrespecting the Knicks and posting Zion Williamson trades. Yes, Zion's a great player. Hopefully he figures it out and can stay healthy. I'm definitely not betting on it because how usually heavier, bouncier guys like that usually don't. It's like Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin, obviously not heavier the way that Zion was at points, but those bouncy power forwards usually deal with a bunch of injuries. Zion feels like a reincarnated Blake Griffin where when he's on the court, he's so great, but he just struggles to stay on the court. Why would the New York Knicks trade for that when they have things going for them, especially when they'd have to trade away one of the core 5? It makes no sense. One of the core 4, really, because still Josh Hart's contract. Still need a ton of money just to get there. Absolutely don't trade for Zion Williamson. That would be such a massive mistake. The media has to knock it off with this. The Knicks are not a main target for Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson will never play for the New York Knicks, in fact. So let's move on from this. Let's never talk about this again. But I had to make this video, one, because I like Zion, and I want people to stop being disrespectful towards him, like the stuff we see here. But also, just because he's never going to the Knicks. That was 5 years ago now. Let's get over it. Let's move past it. Please. I'm begging you. Let's move past it. Guys, subscribe, like this video, turn on post notifications. Let me know what you think down below. Why are the Knicks still talking? Why are they still talked about for Zion? That came and went in 2022 and 2019. That's over. Let's move past it. Have a great day. Go Knicks. God, Paul Pierce, you really are dumb, aren't you?